Galaxina is a 1980 sci-fi spoof trying to capitalize on one of the biggest movies of all time by adding sex appeal. Directed by William Sachs, Galaxina stars Dorothy Stratton, Avery Schreiber, and Stephen Macht. In the year 3008, Captain Cornelius Butt and his crew of space police are tasked to track down a portable energy source before a mysterious masked figure gets a hold of it. The crew doesn't seem very formidable, but their ace in the hole is their shapely pilot, a humanoid robot named Galaxina. Thor, the first mate, is smitten with her, and as the years pass, Galaxina realizes she's attracted to him as well. Will the crew get their hands on the mystic MacGuffin first? Is Thor and Galaxina's love written in the stars? By 1979, it was clear that Star Wars was the future of the movie business, and studios were trying to cash in. Filmmakers across the industry and all over the globe were trying to make their own space opera blockbuster. Crown International Pictures, who had won at the box office with teen sex comedies like The Pom Pom Girls and Malibu Beach, didn't want to leave money on the table. Their most recent hit, Van Nuys Boulevard, was directed by William Sachs. He was working on a Western script for Crown. When he flipped the genre to sci-fi, the project got the green light. After auditioning nearly 300 actresses, the role of Galaxina went to Dorothy Stratton, a Canadian model who was already turning plenty of heads across Hollywood. In fact, during production, she was named Playboy Playmate of the Year. The funniest performance in Galaxina was the ship captain, played by Avery Schreiber, a natural fit in the role since it was written with him in mind. Schreiber was a stand-up comedian who became something of a television star in the 60s and 70s. Galaxina is either a spoof or a parody. The definitions can blur, but here's the difference for the purpose of this review. Weird Al's The Saga Begins is a spoof of both Star Wars Episode 1 and the 1970s radio hit American Pie. Weird Al's One More Minute is a parody of doo-wop songs in general, not any specific song or recording act. Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein is considered a spoof of the James Whale-directed films from Universal Studios. Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles is a parody of Hollywood westerns across the board, and it's at least as celebrated a film. Quality-wise, the best parodies use the source material as a springboard, finding humor by exploring different directions. And they're considered bad when they don't do anything besides remind you about the original movie, or a different movie, or another thing altogether. So a lot of movies described as spoofs run out of jokes and fill the rest of the movie with references. And Galaxina has plenty of references to Star Wars, of course, plus Star Trek, Alien, 2001, Batman. Beyond that, there's some attempts at bawdy humor and some vaudeville-age jokes.
Humor. I'm not going to engage in a battle of wits with you. I never attack anyone who's unarmed.
But mostly it's riffing on the sudden wave of sci-fi hits that took the 70s by storm. Galaxina is also reminiscent of a lot of low-budget sci-fi movies, which was not entirely intentional, nor was it necessarily a bad thing. Several sets intended for the film were damaged mid-production, resulting in a lot of padded scenes of empty hallways, as well as scenes featuring whatever sets and props and masks they could find. Galaxina was created in the early days of computer effects, but a lot of the film's look and in-camera effects can be credited to cinematographer Dean Cundey, who filmed Galaxina between his collaborations with John Carpenter. Cundey would go on to lens some of the most iconic movie images of the blockbuster age. Is this film sexy? Well, the producers' plans were to create a PG-rated film, but there's certainly a lot of R-rated humor going on. Somebody tries to have sex with the sexy robot, of course. There's a visit to an outer space bordello. The crew gets invited to fondle a hologram. But all the sexual content is about generating laughs, not heat. And then there's Galaxina. Playboy had exclusive contractual rights to all naked images of Stratton, so Galaxina mostly stays in her white jumpsuit. But Stratton does bring the heat just by being on screen. It's a testament to the natural charisma she possessed, and a hint of what could have been. As Crown began its rollout of Galaxina to U.S. theaters in the summer of 1980, tragedy struck. Dorothy Stratton was murdered by her estranged husband on August 14th of that year, a violent crime that shocked all of Hollywood. The film was pulled from theaters for 3 months, but it wasn't able to step out of the shadow of the tragedy. Decades later, Galaxina has become something of a cult film, recognized for its distinctive and cheeky tone. Folks who like Red Dwarf, for example, might like this movie. And there's even talk of Galaxina being rebooted for the streaming age. Galaxina is a solid choice for not great movie night. You can make a viewing game to show off your geek cred, naming off the movies that Galaxina cribbed from for that particular shot, or costume, or sound effect. For all the ribbing and irreverence, you can still detect some notes of appreciation for sci-fi itself, not just from the 70s, but the movies of a generation before. And it's a poignant showcase for Miss Stratton, playing a beautiful, underestimated female who had only begun to find her voice.